I am Craig Gilchrist, Chief Technology Officer at BeamXR, and in this video I'm going to show you how to implement our latest changes to the Unreal Editor Director Kit that will allow you to get quickly up and recording in your VR games and allow your player to produce the best user-generated content. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new virtual reality project. I'm just going to call it my example project. Okay, and the next thing you're going to want to do is head over to our GitHub page and head over to the repositories and pull down the Unreal Recording SDK and the Unreal Director Kit OpenXR UI SDK. I've already done that. I've got them here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to create a new folder and call it plugins. And drop in these two plugins. And then I'm going to close the project and just restart it. Okay, so you can see we've got some new plugins available. And the two plugins are there. So what I'm going to do is quickly get you up to speed and show you how to get the Director Kit installed and running in under 10 minutes. And then for the rest of the video, I'll show you some of the more advanced features that you want to do to make your user-generated content really pop. So the first thing you want to do is head to your project settings and you'll see a section for BeamXR SDK under the game. And it's asking for a BeamXR key and secret. So you can create these for free in our developer portal, which is developers.beamxr.io. I'm just going to copy this one I created earlier. Then you want to set that as default and store the settings. Okay. So there are two main components that you want to add to the scene. There's the director camera and the director tablet. Both the director camera and the director tablet have blueprints. The director camera is responsible for capturing game footage. It handles the focus and positioning beyond the player's own viewpoint, and it smooths the transition of the camera around the map. The director tablet is the user interface for allowing the user to control that camera. It gives the configuration for resolution, FPS and orientation, and it has presets for quickly storing and retrieving the player's favourite viewpoints. First, I'll pop in the director camera. So if we head over to plugins now, and you'll see there's a there's a blueprint BeamXR director camera. So you just want to drag that into the scene and pop it wherever you want as a static view. Now we have all sorts of debug features to help you sort of pre-position cameras and things if you want. You can set the debug target, which I'm going to do there. So I'll set that to the player start position. And what you'll see is now, even though my origin is here, the camera itself has jumped to the player start position. And then you can set things like the static and the targeting and things like that. So it starts to give you some features that allow you to sort of see where the camera will be and design the scene with the best recording positions in place. But realistically, what you want to do is you want to allow the user to be their own director. So the next thing you want to add, if you head over to the BeamXR Director Kit OpenXR UI content folder, you'll see some other blueprints. And there's one in here called the BeamXR Director Tablet. So if you drop that in, I'm just going to spin it around so you can see it. So this is a UI to allow your users to completely control their own camera angles and set presets. Okay, so in order for that to work, we first need to be able to handle the interactions. And the way we do that is by adding these interaction zone activators. So I know this particular template uses a pawn called VRPawn, and I know in that it has components called hand left and hand right. So what this will do is it will add basically a collision zone that will, this circle that you can see around here is the collision zone that will only interact when the person's left hand or right hand move into that collision zone. So if I go ahead and press play and pop on my headset, right, if I switch over to VR preview, so what you can see there is the panel is in front of me, but it's neither tracking my position on my head, and also if I pick the controllers up, you'll see I can't interact. So first thing we'll do is check the mapping contexts for the user interactions. We've already created an input mapping context to use with this. But depending on your template and your setup, there may be one of two ways to do this. So if we head to the project settings and take a look at our enhanced input, you'll see this template has 5 default mapping contexts. If I just press play again, there's various ones for handling guns and weapons and things, but one of them is for this menu system. We don't want this one, so we're going to get rid of it. I prefer to use a system where we add the mapping contexts dynamically using code, but for this template, the easiest thing for us to do is to just add ours to the existing mapping context. So if we have a look at what we already have, so we've got a default one for the hands, one for the menu, which I'll get rid of, one for the weapon left and one for the weapon right. I'm going to add ours on top as well. So you'll want one that is called IMC Beam Directed Tablet Menu. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to set that as a lower priority than the rest. So if I pop these ones all up to 1, then we'll still see our grip interactions. We'll still be able to shoot the gun and everything, even while the menu's up, and even if we're inside that zone. So that should allow us to do that. If I press play now, let's just have a quick look. No, we still can't see the interactions. Now let me introduce you to 2 new blueprints. We have the camera attachment point and the camera target. The camera attachment point hooks the camera to an object in the map, meaning when that object's moved, the camera moves with it. This works in a lasting highest priority stack format, meaning the last attachment point to exist in the scene becomes the active one. And they can be activated and deactivated programmatically. The camera target gives the camera a focal point. It has properties for names and iconography that appear in the widget menu, and the widget menu allows your player to control which focal point the camera has at any given point. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add attachment points and things for the camera to be able to see where we are. So as I mentioned earlier, this template uses a blueprint called VRPawn. And what we'll do with this one is look at the viewport. Now see, this is my headset mesh, and then I've got some meshes for my hands as well. So I want to target, by default, I want to target my head and my body. And our SDK allows you to enter as many targets as you like. First thing I'm going to do is I'll add this is the head mounted display mesh. I'm going to add our main head target to this. So if I just search for BeamXR camera target, we'll call this one head. And there's a couple of properties in there which are mostly for the UI. So we'll set this one, the target name, to be head, and we'll set it to the highest priority. So this will be the one that defaults when we first spawn our actor, our pawn. The camera will immediately start targeting this. And then we'll add another one just for the body generally. So another camera target on the body. We'll call this one body. Give it a target name of body with a low priority. We can also set an icon, and the SDK includes a couple of icons. So for the body, we'll use this frame person, and for the head, we'll use this frame face. One other thing that the camera needs is to understand what the first person perspective looks like, and that's going to come from our mesh as well. So I'm going to add another component to this. It's called the BeamXR attachment point. I'm just going to put that on the mesh there. And I'm just going to call this first person. And it's important to tick this is first person viewpoint, because we can use the attachment point for other things as well. Okay. So a couple of other things to quickly check as well. The reason I couldn't interact before is we need to set our trace channel on both of our widget interactions to be world dynamic. And then on our controllers as well, we need to set the collisions, our collision preset to be overlap all dynamic, because we need to know when we're overlapping our collision zone for those menus to become active. Okay, so just to quick recap, we've set our first person perspective, and we've set our head and our body as potential targets for the camera. And then we've made sure that our interactions and colliders will work for our hands. So if I go ahead and press play again, see now I can jump between different viewpoints, and this is our camera. So I can start recording now. So I've started recording at 60 FPS, 1080p landscape, and at the moment I'm looking at the static camera, which is where I positioned the camera originally. So what I can do is I can change that to first person, and you get this nice first person view with smoothing, or I can set it to third person. If I jump over to extra, we've got some rotation controls and things like that. And if I look at basic again, what you can see here is it's already picked up the head and the body, and the body is obviously the origin of the VRPawn, which is at the 0 point, and the head, which is tracking my head. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly fix that. And I didn't stop the recording, it would have stopped automatically. But if I head over to that folder location, it will be in the saved folder. So we've got this BeamXR recording, and that's the recording I just made. Okay. When you save your recordings, when you compile this to Android and deploy it to a MetaQuest, those recordings go straight into the user's library and they're available instantly. Okay, let's fix that. Let's open the VRPawn again and fix the offset a little bit on that body target. I'll set it to be say 1.2 meters up. That's about chest height for many. Press compile. And we'll quickly try that again. So yeah, if I set the target to be body now, we'll see in the camera you don't get as much movement. Set this to third person. Change the rotation a little bit. You can see I can move my head now and the camera doesn't move. change this back to head, it does. And that's our basic implementation complete. So just a quick recap. First, we set up our director camera and our director tablet. Then we set up the interaction system to allow the left and right hands in our VRPawn to interact with the tablet and interact with the collision zone. Then we set our camera target and attachment points in our VRPawn. Next, we're going to use the reposition in view function of the VR tablet to bring it up when the menu is pressed. And then we're going to start playing with some of the advanced features with camera targets and attachments and create really dynamic harnesses for your user-generated content. So let's open up our VRPawn again. And in our event graph, we have these two toggle menu options. So I'm going to add a new function and I'm going to call it toggle director tablet instead. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to find my tablet and if it's valid, I'm going to check to see if it's visible first. So I'll just look at the root component of that and see if it is visible. So I've been a bit sloppy with my blueprints, but I'll tidy them up later. So first let's check. So if it is visible, we just want to hide it, and the component itself has an option for us to do that. So let's just call hide. And if it's not visible, we should call the method reposition in view, and that will bring it into a position that works well for the player controller. So, and let's get rid of this toggle menu and swap it out for our toggle director tablet. So now when I press the menu buttons, you'll see, doesn't matter where I am, I get the XR tablet back into my viewpoint. What we've also got is loads of different options for attachment points and camera targets, where you can kind of set the harness up and a little bit of the narrative to really sort of control, give the users even more capabilities for their creating great videos. So what I'm going to do now is jump into a couple of those sort of scenarios. We have this option when I press play. We have this option for object attached viewpoints. Now, because I've got no attachments, that's not really changing the camera angle at all. It just kind of sets it to a static position. What I can do is just add a component called a BeamXR attachment point. Remember we did this earlier for what this one does is allow me to basically set the camera position to a static location attached to an object at any point. And the way the system works is it's last in, highest priority. So if you create a new one, then that will become the object attached position. So I'm going to attach it to this gun. I'm just going to set its location to be sort of just on top of this gun. That looks good to me. And that's all I need to do really for that scene. So if I press play now and I go over to, I set the position to object attached, and if I put this away, what you can see is this camera, because it's targeting my head, is now attached to the gun, but its target is looking at me. So if I bring up this view, you'll see as I move the gun around, that's the viewpoint that I'm seeing. If I change that to static, the camera flips around and now follows the gun. And realistically, what your user would want to do in this kind of viewpoint is it's really chaotic. You want it to have no smoothing at all, so it stays attached really fast. So as they're playing and running around and shooting, you'll see a much better viewpoint of the action of the game. Now the great thing about our director kit is I can store this as a preset now. So if I store that as preset 3, and then say I set that back to static and targeting me with some smoothing on again, I can store that as preset 2. And now I can really quickly jump between sort of like first person watching me. So I can do that, or I can flip it to the camera view and the object attached view. And that gives the user some really cool controls for recording the narrative. So if I started recording now and did exactly that, so imagine I was in some sort of battle, fired some shots off, the enemy is over there, so let's jump back to that point and I start firing at the enemy. And if I stop that recording now, we can see if I open that folder location, there we go. Okay, now what would be really cool is if we followed the trajectory of the projectile when the bullets are fired. So let's quickly do that. So first thing we're going to want to do is let's have a look at the mesh. I'm guessing Z is forward. So what I'll do is I'll add a attachment point. And remember when I said that the last created is the highest priority? So this one now would be the highest priority for me. So let's rotate that on that axis. That should be forward, I think. If not, we can fix it. And let's have a look at the event graph. What we probably want to do is kill it off when the collision ends. So on projectile stop, set collision enabled to false, and we can also deactivate the attachment point. Okay. So now when I fire, let's bring up the menu, set back to our preset, and let's have a look. So you can see the camera's attached to the back there. You can turn the camera off as well. But yeah, as you can see the viewpoint of the camera now. You can see the camera fly away with it. And if I start that recording again, let's do portrait this time. Start the recording. I'll just do a really quick recording. Stop that. You'll see that as a video in portrait this time. Okay, some of the other things we can do as well. We can set other things in the scene as our focus, as our focal points really. Let's add a couple. Let's say this ball. Again, what I can do with it is I can just add a BeamXR camera target this time. The same as we did with our head and our body. This time I'm going to call it ball, and we'll set this texture as our iconography, and let's also add the left gun. Let's call this one, let's add another camera target, call it gun, use the same. Let's do this cube as well. Oh no, let's leave it as the 2. That's fine. So what we should have now in basic is we should have 2 new look at points. So now we've got a static position and we're looking at the gun. So I can't remember which gun it is. I think it was this one. Yeah, so if I pick that up, it's now focusing on that gun. But what I can also do is I can change it to third person. So now this is focusing on the gun. And I can sort of really hone what that looks like. So let's get it slightly above. Let's reduce the distance down so that let's go underneath there a little bit actually. Make it further away. We'll increase the change the rotation slightly. So not the best camera angle, but we can actually include it so that if we set it to distance, it should be a distance slightly in front of the gun. So it's almost like what we're aiming at. Change that distance to be back a little bit. There you go. And again, let's store that as preset 1. So now we've got the other gun, it's lying down, and we've got this gun, and sort of a preset look on that. Or I can jump over, let's focus on the ball, and we'll set it to look at me all the time. I think we're looking through the ball there, so we can see. Now if I open this there and start shooting the ball, you can see it always kind of looks to me, or it tries to look at me, but the smoothing slows it right down. Turn the smoothing off. Oh, sorry, the camera is looking at the target, not at me. Have it looking in the direction of the ball itself. So yeah, we've got all these different controls, all these different camera angles, object attachments, everything you can think of really. You can get the basic library set up in 10 minutes or less, and then you can go wild and create some really nice scenarios and combinations. You can programmatically add some of those scenarios, so you could move to the target's head on a headshot, that kind of thing. You do some really great opportunities for producing really good recordings to market your video. So yeah, hopefully that'll give you everything you need. We'll add documentation to make it even easier. If you need anything at all from me or the team, just reach out on our Discord. And as always, really look forward to seeing what you guys produce.